Yes. Okay. All right. Hello. Hi, everybody. Okay. Very good evening. All right. To everyone that's watching us live right now. Okay. Firstly, happy International Women's Day to everyone out there. All right. So I would like to just welcome all of you to our live session right now. I'm Hema. I'm heading the Student Affairs of Segi College Subang Jaya. All right. So every year, Student Affairs has been taking the role of, doing the International Women's Day, doing an event at the college itself. All right. So we acknowledge many women out there that are doing so many things in their life, inspiring others. All right. We have got one very, very inspirational speaker with us that will join us shortly. All right. Sabrina. All right. Just to share with you a little bit history before we go there. All right. So International Women's Day was first started off in 1911. All right. So basically, it's a day to celebrate about women's achievements, to raise awareness about women's equality, lobby for asserted gender equality, and fundraise for female-focused charities. All right. So every year, United Nations and the IWD International Women's Day community will always come up with a theme. And this year, the theme is interesting. All right. So it's choose to challenge. All right. In a challenge world, whereby we are all always challenged with so many things that we face in life. All right. Individually, we are all responsible for our own thoughts, our actions, all day, every day. I'm sure our speaker after this, she will agree with me about this as well. All right. We can all choose to challenge and call out gender bias and equality. All right. So this is something that this year the theme just happened to be that, so we are all going to be focusing on that and talking more about gender equality and everything. All right, so without further ado, let me just introduce you to our speaker today, Miss Sabrina Bennett. All right, so Miss Sabrina Bennett, she is a proud peacock alumna of Segi College Subang Jaya. All right, graduated under the program ADP, majoring in psychology and communications. Throughout her time as a student, she also pursued a career in the entertainment industry as a model, represented the country at the prestigious Miss Universe pageant in Florida, Miami, after winning the coveted Miss Universe Malaysia 2014 title. This provided a national platform for Sabrina to speak and pursue causes close to her heart, especially those empowering women, children, and the marginalized. So let's call upon Miss Sabrina Bennett.
Hi, Hema. Thank you so much for the introduction. And before I start, I just would like to say my heartiest thank you to the team at Segi, Satyan and Hema. Thank you so much for thinking of me to get me to come and speak to you guys. Now, this is not the first time I've been asked to speak on such as this to address students, but the first time that I've actually agreed to do it. And because I was a fellow peacock and I spent a lot of my time studying in Segi, it has a very close place to my heart. And I felt that speaking here today would be equivalent to me speaking, to my juniors as a senior who once studied there, who once went through the kind of challenges that you probably would have. And my hope today in sharing certain, stories that I went through is just to kind of, hope that you can relate to that. And that you can take away something from that experience. So that's a little bit about why I chose to come on today. And a little bit about myself. As mentioned, I started in Segi in 2010 at the age of 20. It was a bit of a late start compared to a lot of my peers. I was right after SPM, and I remember my family couldn't afford to send me to law school, which was, what I initially wanted to do. And so I decided to come to the city and get a job first and try to save up to actually pursue my education. And keeping in mind that, law was something that I wanted to pursue. And at the age of 20, I realized that, there was a huge part of my life that was missing. And I really wanted to kind of, go to college and, just kind of pursue my higher education, just like everyone else my age at the time. Um, and with little research, I actually found Segi, and that was actually an incredible discovery that I had made. And when I actually applied, I was given the opportunity to join the ADP program under the communications, to actually pursue my degree in communications. And initially it was a very difficult decision for me to make because that is parting from something that I really wanted to do before. But being someone who, a young adult who is in the city, who is, working for a living and not having a lot of opportunities to pursue, all the dreams that I wanted to, I told myself that, this is something that I want to do for myself. And so I pursued it. And I eventually fell in love with what I was studying. And from there, I had the opportunity to add on psychology as another major. And hence was another subject that I fell in love with. So one of the first, stories that I wanted to share with you today has a lot to do with that journey of how I got to Segi. And, because those young years were my formative years, and they made up a huge part of, my career and all the things that I have done since then to, where I am today. Before I get to that part, we talk about women empowerment as we're celebrating IWD this year with this incredibly inspiring theme, Choose to Challenge. And, when we have discussions about women empowerment, it's most commonly tied to promoting a woman's sense of self-worth, their ability to determine their own choices, and their right to influence social change for themselves and for others. And my first story is one of gratitude, in a sense that, when I discovered and I joined Segi and I realized that I had worked so hard, unlike a lot of my peers. And, I had this very difficult journey to come and start studying. So for that reason, I was actually very committed to my education. I never missed a class, and I was very committed to learning. And this allowed me to kind of step away from that feeling of, regret of not having pursued what I wanted, but to actually find love in learning something new, in having this incredible opportunity. I had incredible lecturers, and, I connected with amazing, amazing students. And I remember in EDP, we had this incredibly intelligent and artistic and, just students full of fervor and all. There's so much of desire to do so many things and to pursue other ambitions outside of just, studying alone. And I think I was definitely not the only one who actually studied in that environment. A lot of my peers also branched out from that same sort of incubator into, incredible work that they do today. And learning to have gratitude towards, the opportunities that came my way, even though they didn't happen as I planned, that has helped me incredibly. And how I actually started to get into modeling in that sense was also because I had to leave my job at the time at the age of 19, 20 to pursue my education full time. And studying is expensive. And, over time, I actually need the pocket change, the pocket money to kind of pay for books and survive in university. And that is how I started my modeling career. And I never allowed any of my activities to actually take importance over my classes, and I was always reluctant, and I let go of a lot of opportunities, to be honest, just in order to ensure that I was committing fully to my education. And to be able to secure a better and brighter future for myself. However, there were times where I had to make difficult sacrifices, and miss certain classes when I joined certain competitions, for example, like modeling competitions, and when the pageant started. And I guess things just snowballed in a sense that I never expected that I would do well or perform well, and that more opportunities would actually arise, because the initial thought of getting into that wasn't to become a celebrity or anything like that. Um, and as it happened, my learning journey was also growing with Seki, and eventually it came to a point where I had to make a choice. So this was when I actually started with the Miss Universe pageant, and I actually had to pump the brakes on studying, and I was so close to the end, and it was actually such a difficult decision for me to make. And of course, I did for one semester, and I told myself it's okay. One semester late, I'll still graduate just a little bit later, and I'll be done with it, and I'll be right back on track, and then I'll graduate on time. And one thing led to another, and I won the pageant, and I was tied to a 3-year contract, and I kept deferring and deferring and deferring. And mind you, I actually started in 2010 and only graduated in 2018, and there was a part of me that found it really hard to accept that I graduated so much later. And I promise you, until today, it's very hard to explain to people who want to hire you why you actually spent 8 years in university pursuing a degree in communications and psychology. Even a medical degree doesn't take that long. But I've learned to realize that every person's journey is different, and I appreciate the fact that my journey was unique to me. And these days, every opportunity I get to share that, I actually tell people, yes, it took me 8 years, but eventually, the fact remains that I pulled through despite all of it. And although people who don't know me may see my pageant as my biggest success, but to me personally, being able to graduate in 2018 after 8 years, and after so much of pushback and this and that and struggles along the way, that was a huge accomplishment for me, a personal proud moment, to be honest. And so I have a very special place for the 8 years that I've spent with Segi, and that for me has been a huge lesson of gratitude, and just being able to appreciate that ability, that people take for granted so easily. We take for granted that we go to college and our parents pay for it, and we skip classes, and then we do all those things. Of course, skipping classes and spending time with friends is a huge part of our college life, and those are memories that we will never get back. And I understand that. So of course, live your life, but fall in love with your journey of learning, because it doesn't stop when you leave university. It's a lifelong journey. We are constantly learning, we're constantly evolving. And so that was the first story that I wanted to share with you, that of gratitude that I had thanks to my education journey with Segi. And I guess the second part of what I wanted to share with you was one of grit. And this is where it gets a bit more somber. And how I faced a lot of challenges in my life throughout the past probably decade or so. Modeling wasn't an easy journey for me. When I first started out, it was a very saturated market. It was almost unheard of to have a brown skin model, that had curves and all of that. So, and I remember in college, because we are all mostly broke as students. So I used to survive on a single meal a day, and I used to be very, very skinny, not because I was working out, but just because I was starved. And that's why they call them starving models, I guess, right? And anytime I had a casting, I used to, put on makeup and put on high heels and take the bus to castings. And, I can't tell you how many times I've been mistaken as a night walker, and, people staring me down on buses and things like that. But that was a very interesting time in my life. It reminds me of my young self that could not be bothered by, the kind of obstacles that I saw in front of me. It didn't bother me that, I had to survive on a single meal a day. It didn't bother me that, I had to take public transport after, dressing up like that and, coming back at night after spending many, many hours in the casting, even if you don't get the job and, spending days on days at different castings and not even getting selected for jobs, being rejected multiple times. This is the kind of story that people don't really tell you about, success stories, and you tend to see the glitz and the glam, and the picture of the crown and the waving, and we feel proud of that moment, and we should absolutely feel proud of that moment because so much of effort and rejection comes first before that moment can be reached. And as a student, I remember feeling very insecure. I was young. I was, straight out of a very, very small town. I was new to the city. I didn't have much family here, so not a lot of support. And, I had to work part-time jobs in order to stay in university, to pay my rent during the time, to pay for books. And it was very, very challenging. And I remember as I started to explore joining all these modeling competitions, and I never used to win. People used to come up to me and recognize the hard work that I put in and say that, hey, you were great today. You did so well today. But then I would never actually win. And I'm like, okay, something must be wrong. What's actually happening here? And I took it upon myself to think that, there's something that I'm not doing well. And every time, an uninformed person or, someone would come up to me and say that I think it's because, you look like this, or it's because, you need to change something about yourself. Or you need to adapt more. There was many times where, language was a barrier for me. I would be the only, person speaking a different language, and the entire briefing will be done in a different language, and I'd be like, hello, hi, I'm here, and being left out from the crowd, that I had the power to kind of raise my hand and say that, hey, I'm here too. You need to explain it to me as well, because I'm also part of this and I'm also present. I'm here. And there's many times those kind of things happen to me. And of course, being in the entertainment industry, people tend to put you in a stereotype and kind of say that industry women are like this, or this is what you should be doing in order to be successful in the industry. There's a trend that goes on in the industry, where you probably have sugar daddies, for example, or you have to wear makeup all the time, or you have to be a certain size, or you have to be so many boxes to tick just for you to fit in that industry. And being a young growing adult, that took a toll on me personally. It really shaped my self-belief, and I had a lot of insecurities in dealing with those things. And there were so many times I was called fat, and those were my skinny days. And now I think back and I regret it, and I'm like, why did I believe them? And those were some of the interesting things that I faced. And you'll be surprised, even after achieving so much fame, it doesn't really stop. Now that I've graduated and I've moved on to work in the corporate industry, biases still exist around me. It's very common that you don't get listened to just because you're a female. And people make jokes all the time about how when you have an aggressive idea and you pursue it aggressively, that you're probably on certain times of the month, and that you need to take a chill pill, or things like that. So that pretty much still exists until today. I can vouch for that. I've been at the receiving end of that many, many times. And it's not easy when we don't talk about these things very openly, very publicly, and challenge that behavior as we see it happen. around us. And I think that is why this theme for IWD is so powerful. It is incredibly powerful because it allows you to choose to make a difference and no longer stand by the sidelines and allow that to happen to you any longer. Some of you may have heard quite recently that it was quite all over the news that I had been dealing with an issue with cyberbullying, and although I faced a lot of cyberbullying throughout pageant days, being in the spotlight a lot. These were things that I think I managed to handle with the incredible support that I had from my friends and my family. But there are certain times where you tend to forget that you need to draw the line, and there were many instances where I faced, certain experiences that really threw me off. Like I remember when I just joined the pageant. So we have pageant fans are very aggressive, by the way. If you probably don't know, they are incredibly passionate, and I absolutely love that about them. But there are also some people who are who find it difficult to draw boundaries when it comes to their passion. And I remember at this one particular time where I was actually at an event. It was a week-long event, so it's expected that most of the celebrities would be at such events. And I actually had somebody who come up to me and said that, hey Sabby, and and this is a name that my family used to call me. So so I thought they were somebody I knew, and so I turned around and it was a fan, and he said that then he said, "Oh, I knew you were going to be here," and I was like, "How could you possibly know that I was going to be here?" And and he said that, "Oh, I just assumed, based on what you posted on social media." And so I was just kind of hanging around here in hopes that I could actually see you in person. And so I kind of appreciated his enthusiasm. We took pictures together and things like that. And he said, "Mia, here, I have a gift for you." And when I opened it, it was actually dresses, clothing for me that were exactly fitted to my size. And that freaked me out a little bit, to be honest. And to kind of think that there are people who don't think about how their actions may cross certain boundaries or certain levels of comfort for you as a woman. For me, I felt incredibly violated, to think that someone had actually kind of, looked at me in that sense and thought about, what size would she be? What style would fit her body? How can I, get her something that would accentuate, how she would look like? And that was a very eye-opening experience for me, and made me realize that while it's incredible to be able to support the people who love and cheer you on all the time, but it is also really important for you to set boundaries for your comfort level, and learn that ability to say no whenever you feel it, whether it is somebody that is talking on social media, whether it's people around you. Now, I was in a very difficult relationship when I was a student. This was during my young years. And that actually impinged a lot on, my freedom and my ability to move freely with my friends and to actually even go for classes sometimes. And I feel like as women, we tend to allow this kind of behavior to fester, and we don't educate our male friends or male acquaintances around us to kind of say that, hey, look, these are boundaries that we need to have because, as a woman, these are certain, rights that you have for yourself. You have the right to be able to, decide to go anywhere you want, to be able to stay out late at night, and, to be safe, to dress however you want. And, to be able to say that you're uncomfortable and not be judged in return. And I feel it is also imperative that the conversations about International Women's Day or women's rights or anything related to women in general are not limited to women alone. we have to start including men in these conversations as well. And, because everyone is responsible for the safety of women, everyone is responsible for the empowerment of women, and everyone is responsible to ensure that we are creating a safe space for our women, wherever they are, whoever they are, and whatever their background is. And the final part of the story, I guess, that I wanted to share um, before I go to answering your questions is one of silver linings. Um, Throughout all of the challenges that I've faced throughout my trying to graduate from university, throughout trying to win the title, throughout the limited resources I had in pursuing my dreams, I realized that there was a lot of silver linings in those experiences that probably at the time I never had the opportunity to recognize. For example, when I actually deferred my education for a good 3 years. Right after that, I actually had a job opportunity that allowed me to move to Hong Kong. And I realized soon after that I had 3 credit hours that I hadn't completed. And I was so upset about that situation because, I felt that, I had been disadvantaged by the situation in the sense that, now I have this amazing opportunity in Hong Kong that I can't miss. I can't go back to Malaysia just to finish the 3 credit hours. But yet, I feel torn and I want to graduate. What do I do? And after I actually did come back and pursue the 3 credit hours, I was actually given a class, this class called Writing 101. And it's so easy to look down to such a class, right? It's Writing 101. Who doesn't know how to write at the age of 25, right? But I had such an incredible lecturer, and she gave me such incredible assignments that truly opened my eyes to a lot of questions that made me in turn question a lot of my thoughts and a lot of my values. And this is exactly what I mean about appreciating and enjoying your learning experience. I had always wanted to be a writer. That's one of the reasons why I pursued communications in the first place. And one of the first assignments she gave me was, what are the things that you don't feel comfortable writing about? And I soon realized that I listed every aspect of my life on that assignment. And it made me question, why do I have so much of reservation to speak about everything, to speak about every aspect of my life? And that in turn made me question the kind of power I had in sharing my stories. What was limiting me from talking about, certain things that was really plaguing me. And as soon as I realized that, I think I had a dynamic change in terms of how I acknowledge situations around me. This was also the time where I started to actively take a stand against things that made me feel uncomfortable. I suffered from PCOS for a very long time, especially after the pageant, and it's directly related to the fact that I was on very unhealthy diets, and it was a very restricting diet that I was on for a very long time. So you might see pictures from then, and of this incredible body, and think great, well done, so much work has gone into that. But I was extremely miserable during that time because, all I wanted was a piece of chocolate cake the entire time. And, it's very easy to feel very miserable when you're denied a chocolate cake for a whole 3 years. So learning to understand all of that has made me realize that it's so important to talk about things like that, to talk about PCOS, to talk about, the health concerns, the impossible beauty standards. And it is so refreshing to be able to talk about real issues like that, and only to realize there is so many women out there who feel the same and who experience the same, and are plagued by similar issues. And not able to talk about it openly or get the same responses or get the same support that I got. And so I have vowed to kind of use my platform and my voice to be able to speak about these things, issues concerning women, real issues, things that just makes them feel like they're not alone and that they do have a support system. And, I think being able to recognize that it brings about so much of empowerment. You feel empowered as a woman, at the same time empowering other women around you to be able to speak their truth, and also, issues concerning them. And that kind of creates a ripple effect in the community and the society, and which I believe is a beautiful thing to be able to inspire people to do. And my advice, if you are a student right now and you're having this incredible time of your life being young, I understand that the pandemic probably has created major setbacks for you. You may be stuck in a home with your parents. You may be stuck, with toxic friends. You may not feel motivated to sit in classes online or pay attention. And it's definitely a hindrance, and it's definitely a motivational problem. But learn to fall in love with your journey of learning. Be present in this situation, in your time right now. You have no idea how much these years of your life will shape so much of your future to come. And you will always look back to this time of your life and be inspired by, amazing memories and incredible learning experiences. And, everybody talks about their college time. It's so much of happiness and passion. And I want you to have that as well. And before I end, my sharing session with you and open up the floor to answering questions, I wanted to share with you my pledge for IWD this year. The first one is actually I pledge to choose to challenge uninformed stereotypes of women that exist in our social atmosphere. The second pledge that I have made for this year is that I will continue to choose to challenge the gender biases I observe around me, be it in my community, my workplace, my home, or in my society. And finally, I will choose to challenge laws and policies that do not support gender equality or acknowledge women's rights. And this for me has been the biggest feeling of empowerment that I've ever had, throughout my years, bigger than the pageant, bigger than, all of my other achievements in life. And for that, I think I can see that, Hema is trying to probably add some light to my background. It's really dark here. I forgot to turn on the lights. I'm so sorry. I'm going to do that right now while you guys prepare for the questions. But yeah, I would love to hear, comments. There's a comment section here where you can actually just post all your questions. I would love to hear, feedback from all of you in terms of any questions that you might have. And I will be back in 2 seconds while Hema take care of you. Just turn on my lights so that you can see me better.
Okay, Sabrina. All right. That was really, really nice of Sabrina to share with us. Okay, we'll just give her a few seconds. All right. So I think there's a few things that, I understand, and I can see that, she wanted to point out a few things, and one of it was about being responsible, about taking charge and being responsible about everything that you do, everything, so talking about things that maybe you thought that you're not comfortable with, but then when you actually talk about it, you are responsible on sharing that particular information out, and probably by doing so, others would also feel connected, and others will not feel so alone about it, that is one thing that I picked out from her. There's a lot of other things that I've also pointed out. I mean, I've written down actually, that probably towards the end, I'll share. But let's give some time for all of y'all to just share with us what are the few questions that you would like to ask Sabrina. So I already have a few, okay, but the rest of you guys, you can just share it in the comment section. So let's see if Sabrina is back.
Yes, I am. Better? Is this
Ah,
better?
yes, better. Okay. I Right. So Sabrina, we have got one question. Like I said, that I already have about six free questions given to me already. Okay. So one question is that what would you like to tell young women who are just starting to work? What would you like them to know?
Mm, I think it will be the same advice I would give any young person starting to work, men or women, which is to don't lose your fervor. When you're young and when you're studying, um, there is so much of grit. We are almost fearless, because I don't know what it is about youth, right? It just makes you want to have, you have this idealistic ideas of, how work is going to be like. You're going to find your passion. I'm going to be paid this much, and then it's going to be an incredible satisfying feeling. And believe me, your first job is going to be none of those things. Absolutely none of those things. I had a horrendous job that I absolutely hated, when I first started working. And I think a lot of people around my generation would agree that we always start off that way. But having the education that you've had, remember all the things that you've learned, not just, I'm not talking about, what you studied in classes and things like that, but the interactions that you have, learning how to speak to people around you, how you communicate to your lecturers and things like that. Those kind of conversations that you have do set you up for the reality of the workplace situation. Work is always about people management, I believe. Being able to communicate expectations clearly, being able to ask for things that you want. For example, if you are not being reciprocated with the salary expectations that you want, there are a lot of other benefits that you can actually ask for. So talk about work and things like that to everyone that you meet, or to people that you're interested in what they do, and understand a lot about what is required for you to be successful in that role, and make sure you put in that effort. If you know a certain skill set is required to be successful at a particular job, don't be afraid to learn that skill. Even if it's not beneficial for your dream job, it will be an information or a knowledge that you pick up that will stay with you for a very, very long time, that will come in handy someday in the future.
Okay. All right. We have got another question from Chris Lim. Okay. Hi, Sabrina. What would your advice be for young girls who are told otherwise in their own household?
Chris, I am absolutely one of those girls. I remember when I was 18 years, I was rebellious. Okay, I'm sorry. I came out of the womb and I was rebellious. So it must have been very difficult for my parents to, deal with me growing up. And I remember when I was 18 years old and I wanted to do law, and I told my dad about it. And then he was like, I'm so sorry. You have a sister who just graduated. I only have, enough to pay for one of you. So she will have to go and you will have to wait and go back to do STPM or something like that. Give me 2 more years and I'll wake up enough. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen, because, I had these dreams and I wouldn't let anything, get into my way. And the truth is, a lot of people are going to say no to you, regardless of how firmly you believe in what you want to do, how firmly you believe that you will benefit from it. But what I will tell you is to understand where they're coming from, appreciate it, because these people are advising you or saying no, probably because in their own weird way, they do care about you, and they're thinking ahead for you. But the truth is, my family gave me the most beautiful gift of all, which is the gift of individuality. So, although they always told me no in my household, but the moment I put my foot down and say that, no, I'm going to go to the city, I'm going to get a job. If you can't pay for it, no problem. I'm going to find my way, I'm going to get myself to school. And I actually did that. And they were upset at me, of course, at first. But eventually, your family always comes around because they want the best for you eventually. And in turn, they supported me. And today, they can even say that they're proud of me for what I've done. So make sure that you know what you're asking is not unreasonable in the first place. And secondly, if you truly believe in yourself, that is what's important. If they are your family, I would take the additional step to try and speak to them and help them understand why it's so important to you and what it means to you to be able to pursue something or to be able to be this person or, just being whatever that you want to be. And if they still tell you no, then listen to your heart. Chris, that is my advice. Listen to your heart.
I like how you said that, listen to your heart. Yes, I think a lot of us, sometimes we are stuck. We are not too sure about what to do when someone says no and then you really want to, listen to your heart. And if you feel that's it, I think like what Sabrina says, go for it, you can be rebellious at certain point, in certain things that you do. Yes. Okay, we have got Satyan, who asked 3 things you wish you did back in college.
I wish I was naughtier. I wish I was not so nerdy and I skipped classes more to, go watch movies with my friends. And I wish I didn't help them with all their assignments so that, they can be responsible adults. Until to this day, I still shame them for it. Shame on you. You made me do your assignment for you. But guess what? It helped me. I became really good at those assignments. So, no harm done there. I think another thing that I wanted to do differently was be more present. I think there were certain, of course, there were classes that I absolutely loved, but it really pained me on the days that I actually missed certain subjects and I wasn't really present for them because I had huge interest in psychology when I was learning it. The things that the lecturers would share in class were super interesting. I was always that annoying person that would sit right at the front and ask all the questions. The person that you hate? Yes, that was the person was me. And so I do regret missing some of them. So yeah, not a very popular answer. I would actually go back and attend more classes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's. One more question. Okay. Have you drawn professional inspiration from other women? Tell us about someone who has inspired you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm inspired by so many people I meet. It's so easy for me to be inspired by the people around me. I'm always drawn to individuals who see the big picture of things. I've been reading this book called, actually, it's right here, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So this is a huge one for me. Because of the kind of work that she did. And I read a lot of women empowerment books. And another very important book that I've been reading is also this. It talks about women's health. And so in the industry, there was a lot of celebrities that were good friends of mine. There will be too many names if I had to name them, but all those people that I still interact with, they did form. I loved how confident they were. I loved that they had this fervor and this passion to kind of be bold and just challenge the norms and be different and and showcase their talent in such a bold manner. And I draw so much inspiration from the people around me. So Yes, absolutely. I draw inspiration from so many women in the industry. I'm sorry I can't name one because I seem to
Okay.
have favorites because there is too many.
Okay. All right. If you were to think about maybe one person that touched your life, in a professional, you- whoever that you've met professionally, one person that would have touched your life, inspired you to that. Is there one?
Yes, actually, in my professional career, and I'm talking about my 9 to 5 job, right?
Yeah.
So this time when I was in Hong Kong, we had this colleague that everyone hated. She was a woman and she was
Mm-hmm.
bold and she always wore black to work, a single color, and you never really had time for chit chat. She was
Mm-hmm.
always very serious, and everybody had nicknames for her, not very nice nicknames. And I for a moment, I actually joined the bandwagon without actually knowing her in person. And after I actually did get to know her and her actual story, I was actually so inspired. And she truly changed the way I behaved at work as well. And she told me how she had to behave that way because she was in an industry that was full of men. And she had to challenge the status quo, and nobody would take her seriously if she was wearing color, and if she was, all dolled up at work, and if she was, hanging out for chit chat. And if she would give them instructions, especially if considering that she was younger than them, and these are men that are much elder than her that is working under her in a project, and she said that they will have no respect for me, and that's the reason why I do that, not because I'm this person who doesn't like to do that. And that made me realize, how much we compromise as women just to be able to be taken seriously. And I understand that all too well. And so I have a lot of respect for, the kind of commitment that she had in ensuring that, her work would take center stage and not her personality, even at the expense of her personality. But then again, that shouldn't be the case. And that's exactly what we need to change in our situation today.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you for that, Sabrina. Okay, we've got Mr. Roslan who asks, based on your experience dealing with cyberbullying, what is the best advice to the victims?
This was a very interesting experience to me. So I was actually cyberbullied. Yes, Mr. Roslan, I see your question. Thank you for it. I've been waiting for it. Highlight of my night. Uh, so when I was actually bullied by this person, it just started off as a very harmless thing, just a guy kind of reaching out to you on social media, just saying that, hey, would you like to go out for coffee? And of course, the person was not unknown to me. This is an acquaintance, somebody that I used to see when I used to go for classes every day, and things like that. So in order not to be rude or to appear like you are so all of that. I actually just kind of told him very nicely, I kind of declined very politely and actually said that, I'm sorry, I'm not really interested and things like that. But it was very persistent. And, every time I used to tell very close friends of mine, that it got a bit more, it got a bit to the point where I started to feel very uncomfortable. So you start to send many messages in a day. 10 messages a day turn to 60 messages a day, turn to 100, turn to 200. There's one point that I think I left my phone for an hour and came back to 600 notifications. And this was just a person that was talking to himself, and I was not even responding anymore. And I realized that something was very wrong immediately. And so he would berate me for not taking up his offer to go out for coffee, because I was so full of myself, and the fame had gotten to me and things like that. And none of them were actually true. So every time I spoke about it to someone close to me, they would tell me that, it's just a guy that, refuses to take no as an answer. So many people told me that, you wouldn't believe it, even my own friends and my own family, and just like, like brush it off. And it used to to make me incredibly angry. But at the same time, being in the public eye was not so easy for me. I've been told off so many times by people who followed me that, sometimes I'm too vocal. You need to watch the things that you say because, as a woman, you need to inspire younger adults to kind of follow in your footsteps. So you need to kind of watch what you say. Um, and I used to take that to heart. Like, okay, I'm sorry, maybe I'm a bit too vocal about, certain views that I may have, and maybe I should repackage my words in different manners to better fit the crowd or things like that. And so I never talked about it very publicly. I used to tell my friends about it. So everyone around me knew about my stalker, interestingly. But when the news actually broke, detailing how bad it was, so many people reached out to me. I think my entire phone book reached out to me and said, "Oh my God, Sabrina, why didn't you say anything? I didn't know." And I read that and went, did you really not know though? I did kind of talk to you about it. And this, I feel, is a huge problem that faces our society. There is so many times where we don't validate women when they share certain experiences that has happened to them. We resort to victim blaming. We judge them for it. The first time I filed a police report against him, the police asked me, he said that, what did you do to him that turned him into that person? And I said, all I said was no to coffee. And he said, well, it can't be that. A normal person wouldn't react that way. And I said, that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. This is not a normal person. And they brushed it off. And the second time I went to make a police report, they actually told me, when I read your report, it seems to me that, you were leading him on and you had a couple's feud and now he's just retaliating against you. And I looked at it and I said, where on the report did you read that? And these are just people reading in between the lines, just assuming that this is what went down. The third time, the fourth time, all the police reports didn't take any action. And there was one particular time I remember, I went with a male friend of mine because he was also being harassed by the same person on my account, basically saying that, oh, stay away from her, things like that, or else I'm going to mutilate you, I'm going to, do these things to you. There were threats and all of that. It was really serious. And so he went to the police station with me. And I had already had 4 police reports at the time. And so we went in together and we spoke to the police officer about this. And I remember that was the first time in about 5 to 6 years that the police actually took action. And it wasn't on my report. It was actually on my friend's report, just because he was a guy. And when we walked out of the police station, he was so happy because he said, finally, we got them to take some action. And I was fuming. And I couldn't even find words to describe how angry I was. And he looked at me, he said, is everything all right? And I said, no, nothing is right. How is it that I have 4 standing reports against a guy that has been harassing me for 5 years and no one has bothered to take heed, even though he has made worse threats against me? But you, a guy, walks into the police station first time around with one single threat against a guy who is unhappy with a different girl that doesn't even relate to you. And then you get the police to take action. How is that possible? What do I need to do? What kind of magical plastic surgery do I need to do in order to get somebody to listen to me? And that's when he understood why I was angry. So a lot of people, when the news broke, actually reached out to me and say, this is something that you should handle quietly. Hire some goons, bash the guy up. That way you will get your revenge. And I said, it's not about revenge. It is not about revenge. It's about the fact that I live in a world where the system is broken and it does not protect me. And if I don't do something to fix it, no one else will. And other women around me will continue to be victimized in the same situation. And it's only after I told my story that so many other women actually reached out to me with their own version of horror stories. And it was so heartbreaking to hear it. And, they say that, oh my God, I feel for you because, I was actually raped by a person that I used to go out with. And I look at those kind of stories and I think to myself, I got it better. So when people ask me, how I dealt with that 8 years of harassment, that's what got me through it. Hearing that how there are so many people out there who had it worse than I did. And that makes me even more angry. And this kind of anger is a very important anger. It is the kind of anger that will incite you to choose to do something to change the broken autonomy of the situation. And even when it did manage to go to court, it only happened because it reached the media and there was a lot of public pressure to take action. And hence, the action was not something that needs to be proud of, that we can be proud of. I can't say I literally broke down in tears when I heard that he was actually released on bail for 1,200 ringgit for 8 years of me not being able to go anywhere in peace, of me peeping out the window every night and wondering if he's going to show up in front of my house or, splash acid on my face if I was just walking on the street. And I've bumped into the person many a times. He has told me many times that he knew where I live, he knew all my friends, all just by stalking. All because I refused to go out for coffee with this person. And it was just such a debilitating feeling of fear. And it's not so much that the guy is who I'm fearful of, but the situation in itself. And for a long time, I allowed myself to be that victim until to the point where you realize that you cannot continue to live that way. And that is why choosing to challenge is one of the most powerful and important things that you can do, not only for yourself, but to everyone around you, to every other women around you. And doing that has allowed me to understand how big of a problem we actually have. I reached out to politicians, I reached out to people from the media, I reached out to NGOs, many of them, and started a whole discussion. And we even started talking about the bills that were supposed to be tabled in the parliament and what delays were causing it. And a simple social media news like that, created a ripple effect that brought it all the way to discussing the tabling of a bill that would change the lives of women in the entire country. And that is the kind of change that I'm talking about. Believe Don't always take the bad experiences that happen to you as as painful and traumatizing. Yes, I agree, the mental health aspect is often overlooked and it is an important part to actually pay attention to. However, it is also important to remember that you have a choice. You have a choice and you have to choose. You have to choose to either remain a victim or you have to choose to speak up about it and break the autonomy and find and be the change that you want to see.
Right. Right,
So
Sabrina,
thank
thank
you
you
for
so
that
much.
question.
Yes, thank you so much, Sabrina. I mean, you really shared a lot, especially hearing from your whole experience. I can see that you've been through a lot, and this year's team really suits what you are fighting for. I mean, choosing to challenge everyone basically, whether it's the system, whether it's the police, whether whoever it is, so I can see how that you really empower people out there, by listening to your whole soul heart and going all out to challenge and to get something for your own rights. This is something very, very inspiring. I'm sure a lot of our students, people who are watching this, they will and I'm sure they're going to connect with you, like what you mentioned earlier. Sometimes when you don't share this kind of things, you might not know that someone else is also going through the same thing, but it's just that they probably had the fear in them. They didn't have probably the confidence to bring it out, to talk about it. That's one thing. Another thing, I also like what you mentioned as well, Sabrina, that sometimes when you tell people, they might say that you should not talk about it. Don't. This is something that you don't bring it out. You don't talk about it to people. But I think in this day, this is something that we are all fighting for. Why don't we talk about things that that is probably bothering us? When we don't talk about it, we think that, oh, it's a taboo to share, to talk, and then we might not know, who else is going through the same thing. We probably can feel, we probably can do something about it rather than doing nothing and just saying that, oh, I shouldn't talk about it, or I told someone and then that someone told me I should just keep it to myself, that kind of a thing. So thank you very much for that inspiring, sharing session. I actually have one more question, but I think it's already 8 o'clock, so I'm just going to cut it short. Okay. So thank you, and one thing that I learned from you as well, about being responsible with whatever choices that you have made. So thank you, Sabrina, for sharing with us, and today's theme, choose to challenge. I think, Sabrina, you have mentioned four different, four pledge, right? Four of your pledges for this year's theme. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Happy International Women's Day to you, and thank you for being here with us. And yes, okay.
Thank you
Anything
for
else?
having me, guys. Happy International Women's Day. If you would like to
All
talk a
right.
lot further about anything that we've discussed today, feel free to follow me on social media. And I will be happy to answer the questions for you, whatever other questions you may have. So take
All
care. Thank
right.
you so much
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, welcome back, you guys. Okay, I know we have got one more event actually scheduled for now, but due to some personal problems faced by our instructor, our Zumba instructor, we have to postpone our session for today. So not to worry, we will share with you guys updates again about when we can, do the session with you guys, because we have already had so many people who signed up and registered for the Zumba session, which is supposed to take place, so we will reschedule the Zumba session. All right. So thank you for watching with us. Thank you for being here with us. Yeah. So happy International Women's Day once again, and we will get back to you guys about the rescheduled timing for our Zumba session. Thank you.